Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with a bit of a requested video. A few days ago I actually made some ephemera on my gel plate using some rose leaves from my garden, and I've had a few requests saying, Ceri, can you do a full background using them because you'd like to see the technique again. I'm quite happy to do that. I enjoy working on my gel plate. So I've got my 12 by 12 gel press, I've got my 5 by 7 gel press, which I use as a palette. You've seen me do it 1,000 times before. And what I've done is I've taken a couple of pieces of 12 by 12 from a pad. It's not my usual 250 GSM. I'd say it might be about 180, I'm not sure. And I thought I'll just make them on here. I could make them on this side, but to be honest with you, I'm probably going to use them to cover a composition notebook or something, or maybe just keep them for covering something else in the future. So I'm going to work on the white side and leave that side purely because it was stuck down anyway. Now I've got two backgrounds, not because I want to make two backgrounds, but I know what it's like. Over time, I'll build up paint. I'll use one as a cleanup and one as a knot. So let's just get straight on with this, shall we? So I need to make a background first that's sort of light-ish in colour. Now, I'm not going to remember to tell you all of the paints I'm using, but I'll tell as many as I can. This is Buttermilk by Art Deco, and I want a bit of this. I can't have nearly gone through another bottle of this. I go through this so quickly. And then I've got some of the Pebeo Original. This is their primary yellow. Now this is quite a transparent colour, which is why I'm mixing it with white so that it'll actually become a bit more opaque. And this is a 4-inch speedball brayer, my favourite brayer to use. Actually, I want to mix up a little bit with a palette knife. Just using a plastic palette knife just to mix that together because the paints are different consistencies and it's easier just to palette knife it just to get it started. Just put this to one side, I'll be using it later anyway. So I'm not really looking for a perfect coat on the first pass through, but if you know me, which if you're a subscriber, thank you for being a subscriber, I do tend to build up layer upon layer upon layer, so eventually the whole of the background will be covered, which is what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to try and think more of like, how do I say this, spring and summer and that sort of feel. I'm not thinking of autumn, which it is at the moment here in the UK. Well, in Wales, it's definitely, well, Northern Hemisphere, it's autumn, isn't it? So I'm not going to choose autumnal colours. If I do happen to have some on the go, so be it, but it's not my purpose. Right, I think that's enough. I'm going to deal with that. Let's get the other one in and then I can use up this paint. Now, my process for making videos, if you see like a page turn or a fade in, fade out, or any transition like that, that normally means I've just edited out anything I think is boring, like cleaning up the gel plate or cleaning up this area over here, maybe cleaning off equipment or stuff like that. So I try to keep everything I can that is appertaining to the process of making the background in it. But you don't need to see cleaning. You don't need to see me doing a whole load of things. I do the best I can, guys, putting everything in real time. So it's very rarely you'll see me actually speed things up. Now, I don't mind that looking like that. This is going to be the cleanup one. Right, so we've got that down. I think I'd like to introduce a little bit of green at the start. So I've got this Pebeo light olive green. I'm kind of addicted at the moment to light olive green. Just something about it is just really beautiful, and I know that if I add white to it I get a really beautiful colour as well, so might do that later on. Now what I'm going to do is I want to come in and get patches of this colour onto my yellow background just to give me some variation. And I'm going to do the technique you probably seen me do it 100 times before, if not more. I call it kissing the plate, and I'm literally just putting it down the plate and gently rubbing areas of it just to get interest within that background. As you can see, a little bit of white there I can get rid of now. There you go. And then I'm going to come straight in with the cleanup one. Now, if you ask any gel plate printer, you will probably find the irony of all our work on a gel plate is a lot of the time our most successful prints are the cleanup prints, which is a bit cruel to say, but for me, I love my cleanup sheets. I tend to use newsprint offcut paper to actually clean up the gel plates and stuff like that, and then those get glued into my art journal as background pages, and then I can build on top of those again. So I'm just taking away some of these edges. Right, there you go, it's becoming interesting. Right, now I tend to work, normally I say tend to because there's no written rules with this. I tend to work from my lightest colours to my darker colours. Just the way I work, guys, just the way I work. So now I want to come in and I think I want to put on some masks on here. Now green, so I'm trying to think of the next colour. I want to use this red in it, but I must remember red and green make brown because they're opposites or contrasting colours. So got to be a bit careful of that. As long as the green is dry, the red won't go brown. So I've got here an envelope. You may have seen me use it before. It's basically bits of plastic I've cut into different shapes. And I want to use some of these today. And as the paint builds up on them, they get thicker and more interesting. I mean, I cut these with my die cutting machine. As you can see, I didn't get it perfect all the time. Am I worried about that? Probably not. I just want something that's going to break up the background a bit. This could be done with, what am I trying to say? This could be done with cardstock. I wouldn't use things like copier paper or anything like that with it, but you could, and over time they build up with layers of paint and become quite strong. I'll pull all those up. I'm not sure I'm going to use them all, but let's pull up one more circle. I do like to use masks. So what I want to do is I want to put these on here in such a way and then put paint over the top. Now I'm deciding whether I want to do solid circles or whether I do want to add some of the donut type things. I quite like the donut type ones. I might add those on there. Trying to work out where. I don't have a rhyme or reason for the way I position things, so I can't explain it. I just go with my gut instinct, to be honest. Now I'm probably going to do this maybe more than once, just to add another layer of something. Right. Now I've got green, I've got yellow. I want red, but I don't want the red so red that it wipes everything out. So if I can get a thin coat, I'll be quite happy with that. So this is Alizarin Crimson by Winsor Newton. A little bit more than that, Griffiths would help. So I'm trying to be really thin with this coating of paint because otherwise things are going to start to look Christmas. Now I'm being a little cautious here because if I'm too vigorous in my brayer work, what will happen is the brayer will pick up this sort of stuff as you just saw there. Let me get that one down, I should be okay. So just be a little cautious. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just time, paint and paper. That's the way I think about it. Right, now I do have to work relatively quickly. I shouldn't really be too surprised, but for once in my life, it's a nice day here in Wales, which means paint's going to dry quickly. It's the first time we've had a dry day in probably over a week, to be honest with you. So just using my fingernail to get almost well suctioned down that one. And that one. I know because my 12 by 12 gel plate is an old gel plate now. It's many years old, that it's slightly distorted. So therefore I know I'm going to have space around the edges. Okay, that's fine. Now if I move quickly, I should be able to get a print onto my spare one. I'm going to let this one sit for a few minutes. Now there are things you can do. If you've got paint that's on these and they're plastic, sometimes you can actually use them, and if you had a spare bit of paper up near you, you could print onto it. I'm not going to. It's just good to know that you can. Let's move all of those out of my way. So I've just put them up near the window because then they'll dry off a bit. There you go, it's giving a bit of a worn out look. There you go, all cleaned up. So this is where we're at with these. This is the print I'm making, and this is the clean-up one, although as you can see, they're quite easily interchangeable. Now, something I will do occasionally is if there's a lot of build-up of paint, I may put a cool hairdryer on the print just to make sure it's dry so I can go on to the next layer. So now I want to come in with some white now. How do I want to put the white on is the question. I might put it on with a palette knife, actually. So I'm just going to squeeze out some white paint there. And I'm just going to put my print onto the gel plate for no other reason than it will just hold it in place. And then just taking my palette knife, I'm going to keep it quite flat, and I'm going to put pieces of white onto here just to break things up a bit. There are several different methods I use to put paint like this onto a print. This is just one of them. And what I'm going to do is, you can see I'm swiping it in one direction. I'm then going to swipe it in the other. Now, you can do diagonals. You can do whichever way you like. I just don't tend to do diagonals very often. I don't know why. I like horizontals and verticals. So just know that you can do whatever you wish at this point, should you wish to do this kind of technique. Just give myself some lightness, a little bit there. Okay. And then bring this in. We'll bring in the other one now. If you don't have a palette knife, you can always get a store card or a used up credit card, or we're heading towards December, so there may be plastic gift cards arriving in your life. So again, I'm just going to come on. This is the clean-up one, and it's a bit of a different look. But I don't need two of them the same, so. There you go, that's that one done. Now I think I just want to do one more thing, and then we may have to dry this a little bit. Yes, I do. Right, I'm going to come in with raw sienna. I'm going to leave that there because I'm probably going to use it in a minute anyway. And I want to just put some raw sienna on here. Don't need a huge amount. I'm not going to cover the entire plate. Now, the reason why I was thinking, do I need to dry it before I do this, is because I was thinking that when I put this down and pick up this colour, what's going to happen is the white could transfer and mix with it. And actually the thought is I don't mind that. So I'm just going to come in and gently put it down and pick up patches of it. Don't need it all covered, but you can see it gets really interesting. I'm going to do that again with this one. Just bringing bits to life. So everything's now dry and clean. Now I can start building up more into the background. Now, we've got layers of interest. Now, to be honest, I'm at the point now where I've lost track as to which is the cleanup and which is the normal one. So we're going to just keep on creating. I want to put something in here now that's smaller in detail and lighter, because I don't want these to become really dark and dingy. And if you're wondering, Ceri, but what about the rose leaves? Rose leaves are probably going to be the very final feature on these. So next job is, let's move that over there. Let's lie this down here. I want to go back to that original colour, which was the buttermilk. And I'm just going to put some of this on my gel plate. And I want to come in with one of my favourite commodities, which is this bubble wrap. Now, I do have a bubble wrap foam stamp designed with PM Artist Studio, who I designed for. However, if you've got real bubble wrap, go for it. That's what I say. I mean, the bubble wrap stamps I've got come in 3 different sizes, and I created them because they're easier for me when I'm on the go and just needing a small element of detail. Whereas when I want bigger, this is the sort of thing I do. Just give a little bit more there and a little bit more there. Don't forget the middle, Griffiths, because I'm notorious for forgetting the middle. As you can see, it just brings it all, lightness all back again. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this one. I tend to, when I put this down, I try to push it. I tend not to rub it. If I rub it, I'm likely to spread it, and you lose the definition of the individual little circles. A little bit there and a little bit down there. Right, this can dry now. If this is dry, you can use it a second time. Although know that the paint that dries on the little plastic bubbles, the next time you use it, they might come off on the bit you're using, but that's interesting. That's an interesting bit of visual texture as far as I'm concerned. So now I want to come in and start defining some stuff. Now, I want to put some words into the background of this, but I'm not sure what colour I want. Now, go with me on this one. I was looking at this, thinking I would add this to it. And I like this idea, but I think this is too dark. I think I've got a lighter one. I do, I've got this. This one's a lot fresher. It's a lot more vibrant. And I think I'm going to use this one instead. Now, my aim is that I want to put some words into the background. Now, day before yesterday, I saw a video by my friend Darcy Sanders, where she used my garden words, one of my new stencils, and I must be honest, I completely forgotten I launched it. Isn't that sad? It's just life's been too busy. So thank you, Darcy, because I forgot I actually had this stencil. So I'm going to turn it backwards on my gel plate. The reason it's backwards is the words need to be backwards here so that when you pull the print, they'll be forwards in the finished piece. So I'm just going to put this down. It's a brand new stencil, so it's going to sucker itself down. Actually, I wonder. No, I am going to go with this. A bit of a shake. Now, this is a mixed bottle. Over time, if I've got the ends of tubes or a maker paint or something, I will very often mix the colours together and put them into a separate bottle like this. So, unfortunately, I can't tell you what brand it is because it's probably several brands. So I'm not going to overly load my brayer, just enough. And I'm going to skim over the top of this. I want the words to be visible. I'm not sure whether this is the right colour, I must admit. I'm wondering whether this is too light. You know, I'm going to bring back in the one I had a gut feeling I wanted to use in the first place. And I'm going to mix them as we go. I don't mind there being a little bit of one colour, a little bit of another colour in here. I'm trying not to go over the boundaries of the stencil for another reason than I don't want to pick up lines when I pick up these words, because I'm going to use that kissing technique of mine. And I want these just in the background. Now you could use more paint. I want a weathered sort of look, so I'm expecting not to get perfectly solid words. That's one side. Now I have to work quite quickly because obviously things are drying. So I'm going to come in, pick up pieces of it, and I think there might work as well. See, so it's just coming in like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one just to see what I can pick up, but I'm not sure how much I can pick up. Now, if that's okay, if this was a paint that was thicker or an open paint is a paint that has extender in it, so it means it's got longer drying time. I could flip this over and press it onto something else, and that would actually generate a flop off or a ghost print onto another piece of paper, but we're not doing that. Right, but I'm looking at the cleanup one here, and I'm thinking I'm going to go off-piste a bit on this one. I'm going to flick some of this colour onto here, just it's a really lovely colour. And as we said, they're not all going to be the same. One is going to be different to the other. So we're almost on the home straight. So this is the one that I'm intending to make. And this is the one that is the cleanup one. Now, the next process I'm going to do is I've got some freezer paper here, the sort that wax on one side and not on the other side. You can do this with a lot of different papers, so it doesn't have to be freezer paper. And I just want to add little patches of white into certain areas to break up, especially like this darkness that's there. So I braid that out, and I'm going to pick it up with the wax paper. I'm going to come in and just rub it into patches. And some of you are probably going to say, but Ceri, you're covering up everything you've done. That's one way to word it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm adding layers. I want people to look into this. A little bit there. So that's that one done. Oh, sticky plate today. And this is the other one. A little more paint there. That's a little bit up there. Now you can keep these pieces of paper that you use for the future, but what I would say is, because it's a waxed based surface, if you do this process again using the same bit of paper, if say I've had white on this, say the next time I do it I'm using pink, be prepared that some of the white may peel off the paper. It leaves a very interesting effect, but just know it happens. Right, I think we're okay. How are we doing here? Just put a little white on there. So here we are. This is the print we're working on, as we've seen the cleanup one. Now, I want to start putting something like a movement or a sweeping shape in this. And I did consider doing another layer of the masks, but I wanted something that will go on and off the paper. On and off the background, sorry. And I think what I'm going to do is a ruler technique that I do. Now, it could be done, this could be done with a strip of card, so it doesn't need to be a ruler. I happen to have these rulers, they're called shatter resistant, which means I can really flex them and bend them, and I use them to stamp with, but you could do this with a bit of cardboard. So just so you know that. Now, I'm going to come in, and I've got Prussian blue here, one of my favorite colors. You may also have noted that I haven't put any black onto this, and I'm not sure that I'm going to put black on it. So I'm just going to bang this in and out of this so there's paint on the edge, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to press it down and lift it up. Don't mind that it springs back. That's an interesting shape to me. I mean, you could pretty much do this with anything that you can bend into shape. I just like to, it's just something I enjoy. Some people, it reminds them of neurographic art, which isn't something I usually do. I've tried it. It just doesn't, it doesn't sit in my wheelhouse, let's put it that way. One bit circling down there. So there you go. So that's given us some interest in the background. So let's just lift you off here, young man. And this one, I wonder whether we'll just do straight lines on this one. Let's get some more of the paint on there. Obviously, you could do this with just a regular ruler if you weren't bending it. It's just a form of mark making with the tools you have around you, which I always like to use things that I find because you get stuff with interesting designs on them. Now I'm trying to make sure they link up to each other or the end, and that's just me being me, guys. It doesn't have to be done in this way whatsoever. Well, this is purely for inspiration anyway. I think that's done actually. So I'd like one more piece across there. Okay, definitely need to dry those. Now, so here we go, guys. Now, I'm going to get everything ready to go because I'm going to have to work quite quickly because I don't have an open paint. I'm using just regular paints. So I've got a variety of leaves from my rose bushes. I don't know that I'm going to use all of them, but I'm going to use definitely some of them. I've got my primary pieces ready to go, although I have my secondary one to one side. Now, I don't want a thick layer, but I need a layer that's thick enough. Hopefully that'll make sense when you see it. So I'm going to mix this up. And I think I'm going to try for roughly a 50-50 mix. I'd say that's probably not far off. We can tweak as we go. If there's too much paint, it doesn't matter. I can use it up on something else. So this was Prussian Blue by Lucas Krill, and it was Primary Yellow by Pebeo Origins. And I did like the way this turned into a lovely dark green. Definitely going to have to remember to write this one down. This is a colour I've not made before. That's a really nice colour. I wonder whether I want to just lighten that up ever so fractionally. Am I risking it, guys? Am I risking it? Right. A little bit of white, not a huge amount, just a little bit. It's okay. I think that was a little bit too much. I want to put a bit more of the Prussian back into it and a little bit more of the yellow into it. Trying to do roughly that same 50-50 ratio again because I put too much white into that. Okay, that's a pleasant enough green. And it will definitely show up on there. So now I want to put some of this on my plate. As I said, I don't want too thick of an amount on here. So I'm going to add a little bit there. Leave all that there because it can get used later on for something else. If the coating is too thick, what will happen is the leaves will basically slide around and make a mess. If it's too thin, the leaves won't leave anything. So, and with gel plating, this is the magic of stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Right, I think that's about okay. Going by experience, I think that should be all right. Just clean that brayer off a bit on another bit of paper. Just want to... What I'm looking for is the surface is relatively smooth. There's a little bit of a textural pull up on it, and it's almost like a puckering. I don't want that to be too thick. Right, I don't need to wait around either. So I'm just going to come in. Now I'm putting it vein side down, the leaves. And I'm going to try and leave the center relatively sparse. Should I quite like that one up there. It's just fun to do, guys, because it's free. It's from Mother Nature. She doesn't mind in the slightest. Another thing I want. Are you already down and pressed down? I can move you a bit. Let's put you there. I quite like you to be over a bit. Now, I'm going to come in with wet string tissue paper. You can do this with a softer paper, and you just want to press down so the leaves don't move around. What I would say is don't try and do this with gift wrap tissue unless it's quite a substantial gift wrap tissue, because what will happen is the paint will soak into the gift wrap and it will start to tear, and before you know it, you'll have one heck of a mess. Now I'm pressing down with this part of my thumb. I just want to try and get as much of this here where the stems are. I want to pick up as much paint as I can from those areas. Now, when I lift this off, there's going to be some paint left here. And I'm going to attempt to pick that up as much as I can, because anything that's left there is going to get picked up when I do my final print. And that's not what we're looking for. Right. Fingers crossed this works, guys. It usually does, but there are no guarantees in life, as I said. Right, gently pull that off. Now this obviously is a nice piece that can be used for something else. And I've just got a couple of waste strips. I just want to come in and try and remove as much as I can of this in between the leaves, across the center, pretty much across the center. I don't mind if it vignettes a little bit around the corners and the edges. That wouldn't be a bother to me. I just rip the leaf right off. Yeah, I need you to go back on if I can. Oh, that's not bad. Right, it's because there was paint on the paper, it's getting a bit sticky. I'm trying to pick up as much of this as I can while it's still able to be picked up. Now, I could come in with the damp cloth and wipe, but I found if I do that, what happens is you get wipe marks from the cloth. So it's better just to pick it up the best you can. Now the paint under the leaves isn't drying because of course it's got the leaf to protect it from being exposed to the air. That's why I'm kind of taking my time. So I'd like to have got more of that off, but there's only so much I can do. Right. If I lift this up, it gives me an idea of how much I'll be seeing. If I just concentrate on pressing on the outside edges, I might get away with this. So the leaves now need to come off. And there is a thickness of paint under these leaves, which means that should be okay. Come on. And I'm wondering whether I can... Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way around the edges. I'm not really going to press in the middle. And that is because I know all of that paint in the middle may well be dry by now. Right, I'm just going to whip this out of the way. We'll show it to you in a minute. I just want to get the other one down and do the same thing again. Just trying to rescue whatever's on here. Again, I'm pressing around the edges. I'm not pressing in the middle. The only paint that should be wet at this point is the paint that was on the roses, on the rose leaves. Right. So I think it's time we looked at what we produced in this session and decide whether things need anything else, or they're finished with, or they're partial something that's going to be used in the future. So this is a background I made just using that spare paint. It'll go into a box I've got where I can pull out a partially printed one like this and then build upon it for the future. This was a tissue paper that I pulled off with the roses. Love this sort of thing. I will put this into my art journal. Actually, have I got one? I just realised I think I've got one already done, so you can see what I would do with it. Come on, where are you? I know you're in here somewhere. I know you. There you go. So this was one of these, and what I had is I already had the painted background down, and I put the tissue over the top, and as I put the tissue over the top, I put it down with a matte gel medium, which meant that the tissue became transparent. So this is just a work in progress, but I will now probably come in and do pen work in here and put the veins in, or I might write words into there. I might do what's it called, Zentangling into them. I might do doodling into them, but that's what I'll do with this print eventually. So that's always one that's going to be fun to do. Now, this is the cleanup one. Now, to me, it isn't finished. It was only ever supposed to be a cleanup. It needs something else, but this will go into my box of it's almost finished. So if I'm working on another print in the future and I go, ooh, that would go great on there, I will add something to this. But this is a partial print, it's partially finished is what I mean by that. So happy with it though when you reckon this is a cleanup one. And then the actual one is this one. Now I like this, but I'd like something else on it. And I'll tell you what it is in a moment. But as you can see, all of those layers, because I know someone out there is going to go, Ceri, why did you do that? You put so many things on you don't see. You see everything. Like if you look down here, this is our initial color. That there is where we swiped it with the palette knife. Then we went in with this. There are hints of the circles in here, you know, these sort of things. It's in here, I can still see it. Then we've got the stencil, and we've got the bubble wrap, and we've got the wax paper pieces we put on there, and we've got the ruler, and we've got the leaf impressions. So there's quite a bit on here. You just need to be able to look into it. But what I want to do is I want to come in and I want to put a metallic with this. This colour to me says it needs to be here, and I'm going to use one of my foam stamps. It's called Sketchy Dots, just to put some interest into the background, into the foreground. Now I don't want to overpower this, so I've got to be a little bit careful. So I'm just going to bray this out. That was iridescent copper. It was iridescent copper 355. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to tap that several times. You can always see whether it's picked up enough paint. Keep moving around until you know you've got a reasonably good coating of it on there. Some people will bray directly onto the foam stamp. I tend not to do that because I find it builds up paint in between the images. So I'm going to come in. I'm just going to press it down gently in the middle, press around the edges. I don't hammer it. I don't want it to be solid. I don't want it distorting. There you go. So I just wanted, there are areas that I just feel could do with a little something in them. just little bits of interest here and there, just to bring it to life. Now, if I want a different piece in here, but I don't want it to be the whole thing, so I want to protect that bit, which I do, I can just put something down like a bit of kitchen paper, a bit lower actually, and just tap a piece in, and therefore I've created a mask out of the kitchen paper, and I've only got a partial there. One more little bit just up by there. And now this will need to go into water, because if you let the paint seal dry, it'll seal your stamp and it'll be very difficult to use it, or may make it more difficult to use it for inks in the future. So we'll do that in a second. I think that's lovely. That's definitely different. I could come in, I could draw the veins in, I could do more painty work, but I like that. That's very, it's not a colour scheme I would naturally use, but I'm really pleased I discovered that Payne's Grey and Primary Yellow, no, it wasn't Payne's Grey, Prussian Blue and Primary Yellow make that nice green. Have to make a note of that in my mixing book. So guys, thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's C-E-R-I the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.